Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Jesse. My pronouns are he and him, and this is our third session of Vow of the Knight-Aspirants by Cloven Pine Games. And great group of players. Let's meet them. Starting with you, Stephen. The name, pronouns, and anything else you care to share.
Yeah. Hey there. I am Stephen, he, they. Did you say to also who I'm playing?
You can if you want. We'll do character introductions in a second, but
Okay, I have nothing to share today. I'm fine.
great. Robbie, go ahead.
My name's Robbie. I use he, him pronouns.
And Alexi.
Hi, I'm Alexi, also known as Cloven Pine Games. So excited to be here playing this series that Jesse is running, and I use he, him.
Wonderful. And our fourth player, Ian, will be joining us shortly. Wonderful. So we're going to use some safety tools tonight. Those include the X card, which let us say X or X card or write X in the chat at any point. To excise any content from the game at any time for any reason, no justifications required. We're also using some of Bo Yeager Sheldon's script change tools. Those include rewind. So let's rewind back past anything we don't like or don't want. And then we can pick back up as if those things had never happened in the fiction. We also use pause, which lets us pause at any time just to take a breather or to step out of the fiction and have a conversation, play and keep going when we are ready. And we are also using fast forward, which lets us fast forward past anything that we decide we can agree will be happening in the fiction, but that we don't want to put the camera on. A beloved NPC might be about to die. We don't want to play out the scene. We can fast forward through it, mourn their loss without having put in their death sort of in focus. And then we are using lines and veils. Lines and veils. Lines and veils. Lines are things which will never appear in the fiction at all, ever. Veils are things which can appear in the fiction, which we won't be putting directly on camera. The example I like to give is of in an old movie. A couple might kiss and then fade to black, come back to them in bed smoking cigarettes. Everyone knows what happened, but a veil was cast over it. Does anybody have any question about safety tools? I'd like to run through them just as a reminder that they are on the table. Okay, and now let us once more meet our characters. If you can just quickly introduce your character with a little bit about who they are and maybe how we found them at the end of our last session. And left right across the character keeper. So Alexi, tell us about Olwen of Darrow.
Yes, absolutely. So Olwen of Darrow, she is a young woman who grew up in a monastery. So she was a student of the sisters at the monastery of Darrow. And eventually she was obsessed with the stories of daring from the lives of saints, right? The kind of more combative and bloody bits of hagiography. And so when her chance came, she took it. She was instrumental in defending the convent from Seathland raiders, and so earned her way to be a squire, right? Leaving the confines of the monastery to squire for one of the knights of King Hadithar. She's very excited about the whole prospect. She's thirsty for knowledge, thirsty for adventure, and when we last saw her, she had acquired a jar of tarnished silver bees that were buzzing around the questing beast. She believes these must be connected to prophecy and to Saint Eudosia in particular, and is interested in doing some looking into them upon returning to the court of King Hadithar.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and just a reminder, right, that part of the symbolism of the tarnished bees, right, was that Caradoc, who we'll meet in a second, Caradoc's the group, the heretical group from which she emerged, she was born, had specifically heretical ideas about the prophecy of Saint Eudosia, and the bees which are feel connected with her.
Yeah.
And speaking of Caradoc, Stephen, want to tell us about Caradoc?
Yeah. Hey there. I am playing Caradoc. Sometimes he, sometimes she. Caradoc, as Jesse just said, is the scion of heretics. There's a lot. There's a lot there. My people were killed or driven into exile and hiding. I was the ward of the crown for some time. I'm the squire and sort of brother to the king. Uh, there's a lot there.
Yeah. And where did we see you last?
I sent off our next player who's going to be introducing herself with a warning about the nature of evil. And then I proceeded to just, get in touch with the shadows and darkness once she had her back turned.
Yes, indeed. And speaking of her, Robbie, why don't you tell us about Marion?
Okay, I am playing Marion, uses she, her pronouns, using the playbooks of the Foal and the Hourglass. And last session, on our pursuit of the questing beast, Marion faced a dilemma. She had discovered recent traces of the questing beast, and at the same time had heard another knight who had been going after the questing beast, but who had been kind of thrown off the trail, and Marion had heard a yell coming from the direction where that knight and his dogs went, and Marion decided to go after the questing beast, despite knowing that somebody was in peril. But then at the end of the session, managed to work her way back to, I believe the name was Sir Parse, the name of the questing knight, and came across a rather disturbing scene where Sir Parse had stricken down a innocent woman, and so Marion through the last session was kind of vexed by the choices that she had made, and certainly is even more vexed having kind of come across this rather grim scene that kind of had unfolded in front of her, and seeing somebody who was supposed to be an upstanding knight who had allowed his desire to kind of continue to pursue his quest to kind of then compromise his sense of morality.
Excellent. Yes. I think what we're, it's the next day. You bathed, you slept, you've had your morning training session, and you're all called into an audience with the king. I think the knights to whom you are all squired are present already when you get there. Obviously, for you, Caradoc, as the king is your knight master. I'm not sure. There's a title. There's a word for that, but I don't remember what it is.
Is it just mentor?
Mentor. I think there's like a formal word for the relationship between a knight and a squire, but I can't recall it. It might not be English. It might be like a French word or something. Sir Paravir, Olwen's mentor. In fact, it might just be French for mentor. Sir Fulk Yaxley, Marion's mentor. Lady Amelia Rascombe is there for Galen, who is silently present, maybe a little hungover. I don't know. We'll find out when Ian gets here. But yeah, so all the mentors and all of the squires are there as the king says. I heard tell from Sir Fulk and Sir Paravir of the hunt, of how you chased and were stricken, of all of your bravery, and between that and the report of the wizard Kestrel, of your dreams, I believe the time has come for you to finally set out on your quest, the first quest of the last quest of your squirehood. May it be the first quest of your knighthood.
Yes.
To
A quickly
To-
stifled cry of
to-
glee from Olwen at
you
that.
seek out the Tower Perilous, as Sir Paravir looks on you in sort of bemused reprimand, Olwen. The king says, take time to gather your thoughts, meet with your mentors. Tonight you will sit in vigil. And then tomorrow at the break of day, you will set forth on your own, the four of you. To seek the tower. And you know, the formal audience is ended here. I think I know that some of you had specific conversations or scenes you wanted to have, sort of back at the tower, back at the castle, if I remember correctly. So I'd love to do some of those, and then I think maybe some one-on-one pre-vigil scenes, with lessons to be taught, from your mentors, and then we'll go on our way. So yeah, first, just opening up to anyone. Did you have scenes you wanted that weren't one-on-one scenes with your mentors?
I want to pitch an Olwen and Marion scene where I pull Marion aside and show her my jar full of bees. Does that work for you, Robbie?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Just remind me, did Marion? Trying to remember the sequence, and did Marion?
You were there. Like, it all happened very fast.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's kind of up to the two of you whether you think Marion like figured out what was going on, or it was just like Olwen doing her weird investigation thing, and all of a sudden the quest team is just like off, right?
Yeah, I think. I mean, what I'll say is, I'll say, look, I've been watching them, and there's definitely a pattern to the way they're flying around inside the jar.
Let me see.
Yeah, please. You have like, you seem like you sometimes have insight into things. Maybe you can tell me if there's a message for us to take away from these bees. They seem, well, they remind me of the bees from the stories of Saint Eudosia. I think they've come here for a reason.
You know, I don't know if you pay much attention to the people in the kitchen, but there is a woman down there who has knowledge of all sorts of ways of reading reading the future. She's never talked to me about bees, reading the flights of bees, but
You know a woman with the gift of prophecy?
yes, I mean, she's I don't know. She sometimes spins out kind of crazy stories, or kind of gives me odd, foretellings of the future by looking at. Oh, she'll look at the frost in the window of the kitchen, and claims to be able to read the future from the patterns there. Her name is Wolfhild. I don't know. I mean,
Do you think Wolfhild would look at the bees with us? See if she can tell anything from them?
Well, if anybody in this castle knows how to read the flights of bees, the only person I would expect to know how to do that type of thing would be Wolfhild.
Sounds perfect. Yes, take me to her.
So yeah, you go down. You see Wolfhild's in the kitchen. She's probably in like, I kind of want to tell me if this is wrong, but I kind of like. It's kind of like it's a kind of an intimidating. She's wearing a big like burlap, like heavy apron, smock, like thick, because she is chopping meat for your farewell feast. But like it's kind of bloody, right? It's like a little. It's messy. And that's I think sort of like setting a kind of intimidating picture of this. I'm looking at the sort of like thick set. I think she's on the short side. Woman with this big like heavy meat cleaver, just like effortlessly like cutting through joints and dividing up portions and tossing scraps to a couple of dogs who are running around her feet, and she looks up and she doesn't stop, as but she smiles, right? She's happy. She's, Marion, who's your friend? What brings you here?
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt, Wolfhild. I can see that you're quite busy with the preparations, but this is my friend Olwen, who has brought a most curious thing, and I think it's something that you might be interested in, and in fact you might have some insight into. Show her, Olwen. Show her.
With a flourish, Olwen produces the jar.
Yeah. And at first she's like still chopping. I think like a little just like a single drop of blood sort of splatters out onto the edge of the jar. Nice. And she puts down her cleaver, she gets a rag, she wipes her face, and she wets the rag and wipes her hands, and comes over and does a little, takes the jar in her now cleaner hands, right? And does a little polish in the spot, and she looks at it and she says, "Well, I know the story of the saint, of course. Although," and she squints, I feel in the lay the bees shine with a silvery sheen, not this kind of degraded tarnish. But it does seem to be the bees of which the legends speak." Handing it back to you, but I don't think.
Maybe they just need someone to polish them or something.
I wouldn't even know how to start with that. What I do know, what I can see, is that there is and I think you could observe this too, and you probably did. I think right. There's definitely intent to their to their formations. Some of them resemble the constellations, or the scrying runes, but none that I have ever learned. And she looks at you, Marion, as she says, perhaps someone whose gift is more natural and less learned might be able to glean something, but that's all I know.
Do you mean the wizard Kestrel? Says Olwen, completely not getting it.
The wizard knows quite a bit, but he is no natural born prophet. No seer.
Olwen's eyes go wide because that is like new information for her about like the nature of the wizard's power, right? Like she's filing that away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, Marion is looking very intently at the bees now with some, I think Marion often feels that when she's around Wolfhild that there is something kind of like special, right, about this kind of prophecy stuff that Wolfhild, is kind of cultivating. And so, Marion is looking very intently now at those bees and says, I think you are right. There is some type of strange pattern here.
So I'm going to say a couple of mechanical things here. In this particular moment, and I think in general, right? You can turn to the bees to search for truth, right, about a situation, right, and use that as sort of like, you don't have to like, you don't necessarily, no one else, right? This is an Olwen thing, right? But I think you can use this as a tool to sort of like try and divine information. Yeah. About situations. You have to know enough to be able to like sort of be thinking about the situation. I don't think you can, you have to be actively searching for truth about something, but you don't have to like examine an area or like investigate or read a person, like that kind of stuff, right? The bees are enough. So that's number one.
Nice.
I will say that there may be occasions when and will sort of depend on the fiction and what kind of moves I'm ready to make. But sometimes instead of finding the truth that you're looking, like one possible consequences on a miss is that you're going to be imparted a lesson you don't want to learn. Right? I want to sort of just like get that out there, right? And maybe sometimes we'll just look at them, and they'll be there imparting a lesson.
This is great. We got a little portable lesson imparting jar for Jesse to use. Also
scrying tool.
Yes.
And if there was a longer campaign, I might have pushed you to do more investigation before you got that. But I think here it's just good to have the thing. It will be fun. And it's another way to bring in your gift. So, Caradoc, any scenes you wanna call with either of these other two PCs or with an NPC or what? And you're just a reminder that everyone's going to get a sort of little scene with their mentor before we set off. So we don't have to ask for that scene now. That's going to happen.
Yeah, I was thinking. I feel like I want to call for a scene with I forget the wizard.
Kestrel?
Kestrel.
Sure.
Because I have my suspicions that this is not the king's quest, but Kestrel's quest.
Sure, I love it. Do you go look for him for them in their tower? Do you go like, do you know there's somewhere that they tend to like spend a particular time of day, writing or drawing in the courtyard or on the walls? Where do you sort of see yourself finding them?
I think, yeah, I like that. I like that last one. That I think that's an interesting moment to catch the wizard kestrel at.
Yeah,
Um,
I think the wizard sketches things. And you see that you find them, they're out on the walls, they're looking out, and they're painting, right? We talked about you're in the capital, right? And I think so this is, the castle is sort of inside the city, but part of the fortifications also, like or separately fortified, right? If you know, like the way sort of medieval castles are and cities are sort of like the city, the capitals usually sit in the center of the city. It's usually to one side, and it's part of the defensive fortifications. And so they're able to sort of look out, and they're looking out at the forest. And if you look over their soldier, you can see it. You see in their sketch, they're sketching the forest, and there's the shadow of a tower is cast over it, but there's no tower in the image, and there's no shadow when you look out at sort of what you at the landscape. It's the middle of the day. It's bright. It's sunny. Couple of clouds, but certainly not what anything like what you see in the wizard's drawing. And they're completely focused.
and Caradoc here is, I think, dressed in plain clothes. I think now today a simple dress. She's not she's not girded like for fighting. And I think, yeah, I glance at his drawings and say, I often wonder what it is you see appear, but the rest of us do not, that you draw the landscape as you do. Is it the eye of an artist, or is it the eye, or is it the eye of a wizard that makes you paint, that makes you draw the images you do?
It's a metaphor, Caradoc. For me, I don't know that there's a difference between the eye of an artist and the eye of a wizard. I have only one pair of eyes, and they don't see a shadow any more than you do. But I feel it in my heart.
I feel sometimes as if I have more eyes than I can bear.
And he sort of like, they'll sort of like give you like a quick look just to make sure you're not speaking literally. Because
I then like look at him very smugly and say, it's a metaphor.
Right. And they laugh at that, like big and deep belly laugh. Fair, young Caradoc, fair. So what I take it you two feel the heavy shadow, the heavy metaphorical shadow, that weighs upon the forest and our realm. Is that what brought you here today?
In a way, I know that this quest for the Tower Perilous is something that has consumed our king. And I know that you are the one that he holds to the closest counsel. I know my king's lineage, and I know my own, beset as it is by darkness. But I know so little of your own, Kestrel. And I was wondering, and I had wanted to set my mind aright, that you bear the same desire, that you bear the same duty to the crown that I do. I'm trying to search for the truth here. That is
Yeah. I want to give you like a hook into that is what I'm thinking about.
yeah.
Like, I think they look at you, and they say, my loyalty is to the kingdom, not necessarily to the office of king or to the person, to your brother, if that's what you're asking. Um, uh, um, so that much he'll sort of give you. They'll give you. But to see whether it's true and what it means, and if you have other questions, why don't you roll?
I look and say, and yet even loyalty can become twisted when it is wielded thoughtlessly. I know that well enough from the darkness within my own family. And because I am trying to invoke 2 lessons, or do I need to invoke them before or after the roll? Before, right?
I mean, you should invoke them through what you do, right? So you can, you mean in terms of like getting the bonus?
Because I am trying here. No one is immune to the glamour of evil, and our histories are burdens we each must bear. Like that's what I've been aiming towards.
I think that's great. I think you've definitely done that. You do have to mark them, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I think that this is not one of my better things as well.
Yeah, you're heeding a lesson.
Yeah, and I think searching for truth is ingenuity, and heeding a lesson gives me
gives you advantage. You only really need to heed one.
Okay, right. I thought it gave me a +1 or something.
No,
I thought you could heed more than one.
You could get multiple advantage for paying heed to more than one lesson at once. So I guess,
yeah, that's what I was going to say. You can indeed.
Yeah, you can roll 4 dice and take the top.
I'll roll 4 dice. I'll roll 4 dice.
What does Leah think of this?
Leah and I have had a long discussion of exactly how advantage and disadvantage should stack in this system, and I think she's relatively happy with where we've ended up. Yeah,
I know. I remember that she has strong thoughts about how advantage and disadvantage stack and don't stack.
She doesn't want them to cancel out. She wants them to stack, and because of the dark advantage dice in this, I've made this system indeed be one where they stack because it's cooler.
That got me.
Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
See, that got me an 8, which I rolled 1 5 and 3 3s and 2s. So
good thing. So yeah, you got an 8. So that gets you, I think, 2 questions, but there's dangerous attention or otherwise complicates your situation. I wonder
how. I wonder how.
I know exactly how, but
yeah. I think I maybe know how as well, but let's see here. These are I'm thinking now like how to yeah, I guess because one thing he said that he is loyal to the kingdom. So I guess that is something. What here is not what it seems. Like is that actually the case?
So that is the case. I
Yeah.
think that the thing that is not as it seems in relation to, their loyalty and all of it. And I think this is what the response you sort of get after your little speech about not knowing what to trust and the dark history of your family and anything, that kind of thing. And Kestrel frowns and says, I'm loyal to the kingdom. I seek the good of the people who live here, their freedom, and their safety. And I will stand between them and any threat, and any threat that might fall upon them, whether it be the Tower Perilous, a tyrannical king, and like, their face is very serious as they're saying this, right? Or a church more concerned with the heavens than the earth. You speak of your dark past, Caradoc, but I had no quarrel with you or with your family, or their beliefs or what they cared for.
Yeah, I will feed in then. What danger and justice needs to be addressed here?
And then the tension breaks, right? And he says, they say, excuse me, I know, but the king, your brother, is not a tyrant, and seems as just and good a king as one could hope a people would have, however good that may be. And the church is the church, helping many people and doing much good, even if it does sometimes forget the earth for the heavens. But the tower, the tower is the imminent threat. And I hear word that perhaps it has, and to give you like a more immediate kind of threat also, and that perhaps his minions have started driving the Seathlanders farther into our borders as well. There is word from the monastery at Darrow that Seathlanders have once again been seen from their walls. That seems to be the real threat here in the moment right now, and I hope on your as that might be a lead to follow, as you seek out the tower at the beginning of your quest on the morrow.
Wait, so I just want to clarify, when they said his, was that the tower or was there a name I missed?
Which his, when did
his minions?
Its minions. It should have been its minions. It's the tower.
Okay, sorry. I
misspoke. It should have been its.
Okay. I nod. Actually, let me see. Yeah, I say I nod, and I understand, Kestrel. I have had my life to reconcile to what has happened, and it still sometimes leaves me bitter. I trust my brother, but I do not know if I will trust his sons and daughters as I trust him. And I'm fine ending it there.
Mhm. Awesome. Yeah, I think that's a great place to end the scene. And I think let's take our first break. Also give Ian a chance to show up, and then we'll do the mentor scenes. And so come back in 10 at 10 after, and vigil. I'll give Alexi another minute there. Hello, Ian. Excellent timing. We are just coming in off break. While we're waiting for Alexi to tap back in, we've gone back to the castle. Give you a quick little summary. We've gone back to the castle. Marion and Olwen had a little conversation with what's her name? Wolfhilda. It's not quite it. It's something like that. Wolfhild. About divination and the bees that Olwen, the silver bees, the tarnished silver bees, and Caradoc had a conversation with the wizard Kestrel about threats and whether the wizard Kestrel might be one, and learned a little bit.
And like the failures of the feudal system as a political instrument.
I'm sorry,
I can't run something with kings and not at least put someone in there who recognizes the problems with kings. I just can't. It's not in my nature. But very, I thought it was a very light touch. Anyways, so yeah, so that's sort of where we're at. And there's going to be. We're going to sort of run through. Everyone's going to have a quick little scene with their mentor. We're going to do. You're going to have. Then there's I actually wrote. I didn't say this before, but I wrote a little custom move for people for vigils. You'll get to have a little vigil scene with a custom move, and then we'll roll into sort of your journey, your travel, as you head out into the forest to seek the castle, the Tower Perilous. That's kind of the plan here. Lexi says he'll just be a minute, but maybe we should start. So Ian, you are playing. Oh, here is Alexi. Ian, you are playing Galen.
Right.
And
Hi.
do you want a second to ease into things, or do you want to? Because you haven't had a scene yet, because you haven't been here. Should we lead with your scene with your mentor, Sir Amelia? Or do you want a second to catch your breath? Up to you.
Better to get it in all, to do it all at once. I think get the Band-Aid off.
All right, yeah. So there's it's the night before, it's the night of your vigil. It's the night before you ride off on your last quest as a squire. Perhaps what will become your first quest as a knight. And so there's a big banquet at the castle, and there's feasting and merriment and toasts, and everybody is very, very excited. And you recount the stories of your hunt, and people regale you with praise. But as people peter out, it gets towards the darker end of the night. Galen, Lady Amelia pulls you aside, and like, what kind of mood are you in? Have you been drinking? Are you, you're gonna have a vigil later, but have you been drinking? Are you jocular? Are you full? Are you like nervous and haven't really been eating? Like, what are your vibes in this moment?
Yeah, I think Galen has been making a conscious effort to be jocular, to be sort of like, every party's got to have a life, every party needs to have a life of the party, and he doesn't really know how to deal with the feelings that he was experiencing at the end of the last session. These sort of like feelings of sort of anachronistic, but I guess I would say that he was feeling blue.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really know like how to talk to people about that. His experience with one last session notwithstanding. So I think he's been like generally making a fool of himself. Turning somersaults and leading the assembled people in sort of lusty drinking songs, and telling breaking out his best and dirtiest limericks.
Yeah, sure. So, first of all, feel free to take 1 heart for distracting yourself with creature comforts, because you have the tarnish abandon.
Sure.
And that's the take heart cue from that. And Lady Amelia pulls you aside, and says, I'm happy to see that you have been enjoying yourself at this feast. It is, of course, in your honor and that of your comrades, and you should enjoy yourself. But remember that your vigil tonight is serious, and that you embark tomorrow on what may be the most important and somber journey of your young life. Are you ready for that, Galen?
I think Galen is swaying on his feet a little bit, and I think he snorts at this. I think he snorts and he says, "It's just a big tower. I don't see what the fuss is, personally."
She leans in. Remind me, like, what are you wearing? Do you have I forget. Do you have any kind of like a scruffy beard? What are you wearing? What's your hair like? We haven't really talked about this.
I think I described him as having kind of a dorky bowl cut situation.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that yes, there you go. Nice. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
He wears
This is my best impression from what Ian said.
No, I love it.
Amazing.
He's missing his bandoliers tonight, but he still has sort of like, yeah, I don't know, a kind of maybe like a sort of burgundy doublet sort of situation.
So she kind of grabs you half by the back of your neck and half by the back of your like big floppy doublet collar situation, right? And she like gets in real close, and she's like, "This is not a joke, Squire." And she's imparting a lesson. Um, uh, and that lesson is, when it is time for business, get down to business. And I think you hear a little bit of an echo of it in it, of your merchant family, like of your father's kind of attitude towards things.
Mhm.
Also, there's maybe a reason he paired you with her. Right, but like, yeah. So she's trying to impart the lesson. When it is time for business, get down to business.
I'm not in a place to accept this lesson presently. And I wonder actually if I can lean on another lesson in the process of resisting this one.
Yeah, you definitely can. You can take advantage, and I assume I don't see any
Okay.
reason why not.
I'm gonna use the lesson. A thing is not always what it seems.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say to her, should I roll first before I respond, or should I?
I'm trying to find the move here.
Yeah.
For some reason, resist the lesson. There we go. Roll with us. That. Yeah. I think you either way is fine.
In that case, I will. I'll roll first, and then we'll see.
No, I think if you're rolling with advantage, you need to use the lesson first. You can't add the extra die at the end. I don't think.
Okay.
I don't think that's how. Right.
Yeah.
With
All right.
advantage, you kind of have to roll the dice at once.
Yeah, it's all the dice at once. Yeah.
I think that he, once again we have this sort of petulant expression that comes over his face, as it did the last time he interacted with is it Amelia?
Yeah.
Okay. I created this person, I should know.
Remembering character names.
His sort of jaw is set a little bit. She's a little taller than he is, so he's like looking up into her face, and he says, I don't think I'm that important in investment. I don't think you're going to be seeing a return anytime soon.
Wow.
My lady. He says, or is it that you never sought the tower? Maybe you did and you never found it. Is that why it's so important to you? I have to admit, my lady, we make quite a pair, although not for the reasons I think my father expected. Both of us play acting.
Sure. Go ahead and roll with advantage, but without any modifier. That's 10.
It's a 10.
So yep, on a 10 plus, you stand firm, impart a lesson to them. So I assume the lesson you're imparting to her is the one that you use there, right? A thing is not always what it seems. Doesn't have to be. You could impart a different lesson.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think about that you can take as a temporary one.
I'm trying to think about the phrasing. It seems like it should be a kind of like a dependent clause there, like a thing is not always what it seems, semicolon.
A knight is not always what he or she seems.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say something about like don't put trust in rotten branches or something like that.
Things are, sorry, let me get the phrasing right here. So maybe a thing is not always what it seems. A branch that is rotten might seem healthy.
Yes.
That sort of,
Maybe even just the second part of that. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, that's a whole different vibe than I thought you were going for. So that's helpful. Okay, so lesson learned. A branch that is rotten might seem healthy. And so she responds to you. She steps back, not quite recoiling, and like gives you another look, and says, "I've been trying so hard to live up to my obligation to you, but perhaps our relationship isn't what I thought it was. Go to your vigil when the time comes, Galen, and know that I'm here if you need me." And she walks away. Marion, does Folk find you, or do you find Folk?
So I think Folk finds me.
And in some ways, this is like the inverse of the initial meeting of Amelia and Galen. I think. I imagine. Like, I mean, how have you been spending the party? I should ask first. Actually, I shouldn't assume.
I think that Marion. One thought that crossed my mind is that Marion, after that discussion with Olwen, had taken upon herself to kind of go out and study stinging insects outside, and managed to get like stung a few times, and so is a little uncomfortable right now. Not feeling quite 100% because of some of the wasp and bee stings that she's recently experienced.
Sure. So not super into like the party.
Is hoping to kind of get into the spirit of the party, but yeah, not really feeling too great right now, at least.
Yeah. So in some ways, this is the inverse then, as I said, because Folk is not like drunk off his gourd, but tipsy, right? Clearly having a good time. Sits down beside you, like claps you on the back in like the most comradely, like gesture you have ever received from him. And remember that he was kind of disappointed with you on the journey, and he was, but I think he's like the party and the audience with the king have like, raised his spirits a little bit. He feels like he's back in the court's good graces, that you have helped him get there. Right. And so he sort of claps you on the back, and he's like, "Oh, so exciting, Marion. So exciting. You're growing, you're learning, you're becoming a knight. How do you find yourself on this eve of your vigil?"
Well, I'm physically feeling a little sore, but I'm feeling optimistic. The king says that with our next venture, we might become knights. That's certainly sooner than what we had expected.
And none more deserving than you. You acquitted yourself so well on the hunt.
Thank you. I'm happy that the hunt went so well, although the incident with Sir Perce was a little troubling to me.
Put it out of your mind, Marion. It's a tragedy, a deep tragedy. I'm sure he will be held to account for it in heaven, if not on earth. But in the meantime, you sought out the beast, which was our duty. And you should not. You should feel good about that. I think, and he's imparting a lesson, which is the exact wording. Is it never regret the consequences of fulfilling your duty. And are you going to accept that lesson, defy it, or whatever or refuse it? Resist it. That's the right one. Resist it.
So the lesson is never regret
the consequences of fulfilling your duty. And I think just to call it, like, he sees the guilt on your face and he's trying to sort of, lift it a little bit, right?
Yeah. And I think this part, Marion is thinking that I mean, she sees the lesson. I mean, she hears the lesson. I think she sometimes has a hard time, taking folk with, as somebody who is, really wise. I mean, that folk, I think, is often, just looking to profit personally from things. But I don't know with this lesson. I don't know that she feels really compelled to boldly resist this in some way. I think there is some truth to this. I think that she's willing to acknowledge. So I think she says, well, certainly with the questing beast, we fulfilled our duty, and it has subsequently led to this venture that is before us, right? I mean, our success with the questing beast seems to have sparked our king to open this new door in front of us, this door taking us to the Tower Perilous and to knighthood, should we be successful.
He leans in kind of almost conspiratorially to you, and he says, yes, that's true. I mean, it was also your visions, and the wizard Kestrel's verification of their truth that certainly that caused him to think of it. But the hunt for the beast cemented your worth in his mind and let him know that you could handle it. So yes, I'm very, very proud of you. Make sure to record the lesson as a temporary lesson and
Mhm.
and mark a notch. And I think
Yep.
he toasts one last time, and sort of lumbers off. Um, uh, uh, Olwen, Olwen, um, how are you finding this this party?
I think it's a lot of people and a lot of roistering for Olwen. So she's like staring around, taking it all in, but like not finding it easy to fully enter into the festivities. I think when she can find someone who will listen to her, she will kind of like nervously go on about the questing beast adventure, right, and like recount the deeds of herself and her fellow squires, right, like trying to to talk each of them up whenever she gets the opportunity to bend someone's ear about it.
Yeah, so I think you at some point late in the evening, you notice Sir Paravir like sitting on a bench against the wall away from everyone else, sipping a cup of wine. Um, uh, um, uh, and I think for a little while you notice him kind of watching you as you sort of like stand awkwardly for a little bit and then flit down next to somebody and bend their ear for a while, and like you notice him kind of observing you. And at some point he kind of gestures for you to come over.
Yeah, and I will do that.
Yeah. You see that the cup of wine is basically full.
Yeah.
Right. Like he's holding it. He's maybe occasionally sipping it, but he hasn't really been drinking it. And he looks at you, very seriously, very seriously. And he says, "Well, Owen, how do you feel?"
Candidly, sir, excited and scared.
Do you feel ready for your vigil?
I tried to do some research, but all the books are oddly reticent about the content of the vigil. It's
It's a very simple. There's a you find a place where you can quietly meditate, whether it's in your room or a particular chapel or in a grove or I'm surprised. I apologize. I should have told you this sooner. This is. I think generally this is information that most of you would have, honestly. But I think it's fun that Olwen doesn't necessarily, for all of her knowledge, right? This like something that just sort of slipped through the cracks. And you meditate on knighthood, on your purpose, on your goals, through the night. And then you set out at dawn on your quest.
right. I think yes. I have a sort of a picture of it, but what is happening? What am I doing? What am I doing while I'm meditating? That's and this is like when the sisters would talk about the contemplative journey of prayer, but what do I do? Sir,
there are liturgies, if you would like. I'm surprised you didn't find them in your research. I suppose there are certainly depending on the particular order, there are different. I've never been interested in such things really, so it's again my fault that you don't have the information. So you can meditate on the liturgies. You can read scripture if you so choose, or you can just think, dream, plan. It's really how you spend the time in contemplation is up to you. And I think this is when he sort of his tone kinds of shifts, right?
Yeah.
And it's these are the kind of like meandering question answer sessions that you're very used to.
Sure.
But here he gets a little bit heavy, and he says the vigil is important, and what you say and do, of course, matters. I wouldn't suggest otherwise. Um, but most important is that you look into yourself and who you are, and decide how you are going to approach your quest. And the lesson he's trying to impart here.
Yeah.
Actually, I think he goes a little bit further. He says, "You may have. I don't know if you've heard. There have been word of more of Seathlanders sighted from the monastery. My understanding is that the wizard Kestrel wants to send you in that direction.
Okay.
Uh, um, this is some of what Kestrel told Caradoc, but maybe a little bit more directly, right? Right. It is all due to the influence of the tower. The wizard believes.
Seathlanders showing their cowardly hides in the kingdom once more? Well, we could certainly send them packing.
Perhaps. This is what I'm trying to tell you. You're going to be going back where you grew up. For at least a little while, for a moment, passing through, and you may encounter situations that seem familiar. The lesson is you never cross the same river twice. Right?
She's flashing back to falling in the river, while they're on their
Right.
questing this quest.
Right. And just because you have been there before and know the people and have encountered Seathlanders before, it does not mean that this will be the same, should be the same. Learn from the, no, you never cross the same river twice. No two experiences are identical.
She takes a second, thinks it over, and then she nods. Thank you, sir. I will start my vigil by meditating on that.
Sure, yeah. So mark a notch for accepting it. And,
I'm accepting the lesson.
Yeah, and someone accepted the lesson. Oh, sorry, that's Marion did as well. So make sure to mark a notch for that if you didn't. And mark it down as a temporary lesson, and sort of says, "Good. Try to enjoy. I know people are leaving. It's getting to be the end. Before your vigil, try to enjoy a little bit more of the evening." Okay. Caradoc, how do you find the king? Does he find you? Do you find him? How are you finding the party? I mean, give me the whole vibe for you.
I think that, well, I am just thinking because like the king can't just like walk. Like I think that I am, as always, a little bit. It's not that I don't enjoy the party, but I think it's always a little bit of I am kept on the periphery by others. And so I eventually join the king once in a moment when his wife, the queen, has begun to entertain some of their guests.
Yeah, maybe she's dancing with somebody.
Yeah.
And I love that. And you sit down and he's watching her for a second, before he turns to you and says, do you want to go on this quest, sibling?
I pause. Of course I do. It's, as you say, it's an opportunity.
Yeah. He puts an arm around you, like not like holding you close, but like sort of around your shoulder, the back of your chair, right? Like that kind of friendly, and looks at you and says, and says, because this is, I am sending you and your friends because you seem to be the best ones suited for the job, because of your visions, because of your abilities. But I'm also sending you because I think it will help you grow and into yourself. But if you don't think that, if you feel like this isn't a quest for you, and I think just to be real clear, right? He thinks it is. I think he just says that, and I think it is. I trust you, but I want you to. Just because I'm the king and also your brother doesn't mean you can't say no to me. Right? I think he's feeling fragile about the relationship, not the decision, and that's what you're seeing.
Oh boy. If I did not want to go, I would tell you honestly. I give you my word. I want to go.
And then he believes you. His face breaks into a huge smile. And he like gestures to a servant to bring over two fresh glasses of wine. I know it's your favorite. And he toasts you. He says he toasts you loud, to my sibling Caradoc. And how are you presenting here?
Sure. I'm still in the dress.
Yeah.
I think when he says, "Yeah, I know it's your favorite," I kind of blush a little bit, and I said, "And then you know why I don't drink it anymore."
Oh, fair. Waves it away and calls for something a little bit not quite as strong, and says to my sister, the Squire Caradoc, and her future knighthood. Hear, hear, and the whole crowd cheers. And then he leans in and embraces you, and whispers in your ear, always remember, try to figure out how to phrase this. Do act. There we go. Act without doubt, and you will never know regret. And I think you feel the irony in that lesson that he's imparting a little bit, right? Because you know about his abandon and his own sort of self.
Yeah.
So maybe he's trying to impart it with a little bit of wishful thinking, but he's trying to give you a blessing with this lesson, right? This is something he wants you to feel. He thinks it will help you.
I nod. I accept it, and all right, bring the first drink. I think I'll accept it.
Great, yeah. So mark it as a temporary. Take it as a
Yeah.
temporary lesson. One cool thing about lessons is that you can accept them and take the notch. And then if you decide that you don't really want to use them, they don't have to come into play. If they're there for when you want them. I like that. That's good. It's a nice bit of tech. Cool. Although and then you can defy them for more notches. All right. Vigils. So there's a custom move for vigils. I want to keep this. Yeah, you were off when I said this before. So
I did not know there was a custom move. That's awesome.
I said that before when we came back from the break, but before you were there. I don't know. It's a very light custom move. So we're just gonna go round robin again. I want to try and keep this pretty snappy so that we can. But I also, I want a little bit of description here. So, Galen, where do you decide to take your vigil? Is it in your quarters? Is there some special place? Is there just a chapel?
I think that sorry, there's a cat yelling. I think that Eleanor's tower is tall and has many roofs and gables. And she usually only goes as high as the telescope room, but there are actually a few floors beyond that. I think that Galen has a particular spot sort of nestled up here in the kind of like apex of the tower on the roof, like outside that is sort of overgrown by Russian sage, sort of like red vines, and he has a little nook, and he keeps some stuff up here, a book, a spyglass, kind of maybe like a old hard wheel of cheese or something. And this is where he comes when he just wants to be alone.
Sure. So when you spend the night in vigil, detail the subject of your meditation and roll plus perseverance. So what are you meditating on?
I am undoing the spyglass, and I am looking over the horizon towards the sea. Trying to imagine where my father might be. And after a little while of thinking, I think that after a little while of searching, he's sort of widening the scope, widening the arc of his sight until eventually he's turned all the way around, and he is looking at the other. I imagine that the sea is to the west. So he's turned around and he's looking towards the east.
Which is the forest, right? Which is where you're going to be going.
That's right.
All right, roll plus perseverance.
Okay. I think this is pretty poor for me, especially if I have a tarnish in it.
Oh, you roll with advantage when you're tarnished.
Yeah, the tarnish actually helps you.
I see. Okay. Dark advantage. Okay, yeah. Well, there's
Right. I forget what happens.
There's more going on here than I thought, but anyway, I'll roll the advantage.
So when you get the 3 dice in a row, the one on the farthest left will be the dark die.
Okay.
Because that matters for the.
There we go. 3d6 minus 1.
3d6 minus 1. So you get a 10.
I got a 10, and the one on the right is a 6.
So the one, did I say the one on the far right or the one on the far left? Whichever one I said it will be. I just don't remember what I said anymore.
I think you said on the right.
Great. So the one on the right is
left. Okay.
I thought it was left too, which is why I asked. Well, We'll say it's the right, if that's what we want. That makes the 6 the dark die. When the dark die is highest, what happens, Alexi? Remind me.
You, in addition to whatever other result the roll has, you also mark an additional tarnish.
So you're going to mark an additional tarnish here. But you've got a 9, which lets you either clear a tarnish or take 1 heart. And I will tell you what solace you find. I think the solace you find is so you can choose another solace to tarnish to mark and clear one of the 2 you have, or just not mark one. Sort of, I think, up to you how you want to do that. The solace you find, so you're looking out to sea and thinking about where your father might be. And I think as the sun starts to rise in the east, so it's still dark over the water, right? And you're looking out over the forest. You see a vision, not a vision, you see it, a seabird, not an albatross, because that has all kinds of connotations in English literature, but a large seabird flying in from the forest instead of in from the sea, towards the sea, that had perhaps been lost, and has found its way back to where it belongs. And you have a feeling. Well, I'm not going to tell you how you feel, but you get the idea, right? That in your father's voyaging, he will find his way home and back to you if that's something that you want. And also that you're about to set off on a journey into the forest, and you don't know if you're going to come back or not, but you get a sense that you won't lose your way, from sort of seeing this bird come home. Does that work for you?
I think so.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Or you could take the tarnish and get an extra heart, but I think your heart is already full. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm basically going to trade 1 tarnish for the other.
Yeah, if you want to. Yeah.
Okay.
Or you can keep the 2 you have and just not take a new one if that's what you want. Meanwhile, Marion, where do you?
I think. Well, first of all, I'm going to take Shane.
Mm-hmm.
I think. And I think he is folding the spyglass, and he's saying to himself under his breath, he's saying, never the same river twice. And he's holding his face in his hands.
Wow.
Marion.
Yeah, Marion. So where do you take your vigil?
Okay, so since the vigil is a time of self-reflection, I think Marion's going to go a little grim here. I think she goes to the cemetery where the woman was buried, who was killed by Sir Perce, and I mean, Marion is feeling like, okay, if I had made different decisions, that I might have gotten there soon enough to have done something. And I think she also has, like, with her, a jug that she got from Wolfhill that has this really bitter drink that, that Marion before this had kind of talked about going out there, and Wolfhill had kind of given her this kind of bitter tea to drink and to keep her awake during the vigil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So are you taking this vigil, defying the lesson of never regret fulfilling your duty? Is that you would mark a notch for doing that and roll with disadvantage?
I think that's awesome. I think you should do that.
Yes,
It's also your fifth notch. But
yes,
um,
yeah, that seems right to me. Because she's been thinking about that lesson that was just recently imparted, and has had some questions about, right. She has questions about folk and how
yeah.
legitimate folk actually is as my mentor. So yeah.
Yeah. So go ahead and so I mean, tell me. You sort of already said it, but I guess do you have something else to say about the subject of your meditation, or you just want to go ahead and roll?
I do think during this meditation, she kind of she is actually speaking out loud to this woman who she doesn't really know, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
but yeah, she's at the grave and is kind of thinking things through out loud, doing it as though it was having some conversation with this woman. Yeah. So this for this role, it is. Let me see. It's with
Plus perseverance, which you're not very good at.
no, this is going to be ugly, I think. So let me go. This is 3d6.
Yeah, take the lowest.
And it's a -1. Yeah.
And that is a 4 minus 1 is a 3.
Yeah.
So you fail. On a 6 minus, mark 1 tarnish and describe the nightmare you wake from at dawn. So what kind of bad dream do you have? And you can take that however you want in terms, like, it doesn't have to be like a horrifying, but there's it's a bad, unsettling dream you wake from. It can even just be a feeling you have coming out of it if you want.
I think what the dream is, I wake in the cemetery, and my dream is that this conversation I was having about my self-doubts and regrets that I was experiencing, and as I was conversing, but now with my dream, I actually believe I had a vision of this woman's ghost, right, actually rising up out of the grave, and standing there, in front of me. I mean, it took on a very real quality to it, right? That
Yeah.
I
Sure.
was in conversation with this woman.
Can you remember what she said or no? You don't have to, if you can, you don't have to say it. I'm just curious if you can remember it.
I could have her impart a lesson to me. Yeah, I guess I would recall something that she.
You don't have to know what it is right now. I was just curious if she remembered it, or it was just a lingering sense of the conversation.
No, I think that there would be things that the ghost said that kind of struck me.
Sure.
And I mean, I think one thing that I would recall is that knights need to remember that the world is made up of more than simply the aristocrats, right? That there are other people all around you, right? And that
if you want to take that as a lesson,
Mhm.
and if you, and mark a notch for accepting it, I am okay with that. You've already come back around to the top, and we'll talk about advancement at the end of the session. But there's an advancement tab to sort of see how that goes. If you want to take a look at it. All right. Because I just like that so much. I think that's cool. Okay. Owen, where do you take your vigil?
I'm going to go with a chapel dedicated to Saint Johanna, the Maiden Knight, and I think like we like see Olwen like standing stiffly, like hands on the hilt of her sword, which is on the ground, exactly imitating the like pose in the stained glass window of Saint Johanna.
Two questions. Is it like so? This I imagine this is this in the castle? Is this or somewhere out in the city in like someone else's manor, or as part of a church?
I think
and is it well maintained? Those are the two questions I have for you.
Oh, great.
Like, I'm curious, like what the cult of Saint Johanna is, and
Yeah, I think it is a small side chapel that is attached to the church and the castle. It's a little run down, but clearly someone has been trying to spruce it up recently. Possibly Olwen herself has just been here when she's not on duty, trying to like clean things up and tidy the votive candles and make things respectful for Saint Johanna.
Awesome. All right. And what are you meditating on as you're standing stiffly?
Yeah, I think she's talking to the saint for a minute, and she's saying the thing she's worried about, like the wizard sending us back towards Darrow. Have I done enough that the sisters there will see me as a warrior like you, or will they just remember the little girl dozing off in chapel?
Yeah. And go ahead and roll plus perseverance, which you're pretty good at, I believe.
No,
you're
my
fine
perseverance
at,
is 0.
Caradoc is very good at it.
Here's the thing: I have not rolled yet this session, and I have an advantage left over on my next roll from the end of the last session.
Yep. Oh, you did 2, Marion. We kind of forgot. You could have used it to cancel out your disadvantage. Well, just save it, I guess. Go ahead and roll with advantage.
All right. So I take the top 2 from that. Gives me a 7.
A 7. All right. So on a 7, it's a hit. You can either take a heart or remove a tarnish.
I have no tarnishes. I'm untarnished, so I will take the heart.
Take the heart. And so you don't get a vision on a 7 to 9, but you get solace. And so I don't think the saint responds to you, right? I don't think
she's busy.
I don't think that she, you get like the direct kind of communication, but I do think you feel a sense of her presence, and her confidence in you. A sense that she hears you, and trusts you. I think that's the solace you take there. All right, Caradoc.
Oh,
where are you doing this?
Yeah, I think that it's on the same place where I met with the wizard Kestrel, and I'm looking out towards that landscape that Kestrel was drawing.
I think the chair he sat in, and like it's not a full drafting table, but like the easel or whatever that he was using, the lectern or whatever, it's just sort of as a surface to so that there's something there for you to sit on and lean on if you want. And yes, you're looking out over that landscape. And what are you meditating on? What's the content of your meditation, if there is any?
I think that it is I want to know that that my brother's faith in me is well placed. That
Mhm.
I think his faith is well, no, I don't know. I don't think it's that. I think it's whether sorry, I'm just thinking this through. I think it's whether they're yeah, I guess I'm reflecting on what the wizard Kestrel said before, on whether there is a path forward that is not simply a continuation of the um broken shards of the past.
Sure, love that. So two questions here. Number one, sorry, not questions to come. Note that you get to roll with advantage, and the far because you folly marked, and the far right die is going to be the dark die. And then I just asking, like, are you following the lesson? The first step towards healing is acknowledging when wounds. You're talking about avoiding the. Are you like doing this? You're talking about avoiding the shards of the past. So I just kind of that feels
yeah, like I'm
that
almost
feels related. So I just want to.
Yeah, that might make sense. I'm even almost wondering if I'm defying as well as histories are burdens we must bear. Because I guess I'm thinking like, is it something that we can move beyond?
You could definitely do that. They would cancel each other out, and you would still have advantage because you have the tarnish.
All right. We got there. Okay,
Yeah.
so I marked the notch. I mark off that, and I'm rolling 3 dice.
Yep. +2.
I know, but I got like 2 1s and a 6.
So that is a 7 +2 is
it's a 9.
+2 is a 9. You still get a 9. You do mark another tarnish.
Okay.
But on a hit, you get either clear a tarnish or take a heart. So you could take the heartish and take a heart, or swap out one of these tarnishes for another, or keep these 2 tarnishes and not take a new one. Those are sort of your options.
I think I'll clear shame and mark wrath.
Sure. So let's talk about the solace that you find. And I think at some point in the night, you sort of look down, and you see a scrap of paper, like a ripped off piece that was sort of like that has like that. It's not like one of the main things that Kestrel was sort of drawing, but it's like a little doodle, a quick sketch on like maybe even the back of something that had like been rubbed out, right? It's a sketch of you. That I think that you intuit, right, that Kestrel must have made as you were walking off. It's sort of you're like in 3/4 profile, turning away, right, to leave. And there's like a kind of Kestrel, you can say whether this is something you really felt or feel, right? But Kestrel saw, it seems, like a certain kind of determination in you, right? There's like an angle to your jaw, a glint to your eye, right? In this very rough sketch, right? It's like practically a doodle, but Kestrel has a great hand and also magic. And you know, so 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 like what you see in it is the confidence of the wizard Kestrel. Um, that whatever you were, right, you have become and are becoming something more. And who knows, maybe, from what he said, he doesn't think you were ever anything all that bad to begin with, right? Hard to read, but you have the confidence of the wizard Kestrel, and you can find solace in that. And yeah.
Sure, and I'll rewrite my lesson. Our histories are burdens we each must bear. The past is blood and cinders. The future is yet unwritten.
That's something we have to do at the end of the set as part of the end of session move.
I thought that says right now, defy a lesson. If you roll a hit, rewrite the lesson to reflect what you've learned or how you grow.
Right. That's right. Very cool. Thank you. Awesome. All right. So it's let's take our second break. Let's come back to 22 past, and then we'll finish off the session with the beginning of the quest. We'll give Robbie one more second, and then. All right. So you know, post vigil, you gather right at the gates of the castle. There's probably not a lot of people. You know, your mentors are all there. Amelia, clear-eyed and cold. Folk, bleary-eyed but present. Um, uh, um, uh, Hadithar, along with Kenwyn, both together, fully dressed, alert and ready to see you off with a smile. Caradoc, and Sir Paravir, looking proud, if haggard, like old, right? Like, getting up this early was actually maybe hard for him at his age. But they're there to see you off. They may have a quiet word with you about your vigil. Last quick parting bit of advice. But they said everything important they needed to say the night before. And so so you set off. And as I said, you know, you've been the wizard is there too, and I think the wizard reminds you all, right, of your visions, right, of what you saw in your dreams, of the danger of the Tower Perilous. I'm sure you're reminded of your conversation with your grandmother, Caradoc, and the threat of the undead, which I don't know if you've told anyone about, but it's certainly there and present for you. And then you know, Kestrel, I think for the first time, tells all of you, sort of collectively, although you've heard bits of this from different people by now, that the shadow is lingering hard over the homeland of the Seathlanders, pushing them into the Five Realms, into Castany. And so and that's part of why they've been spotted from the walls of Darrow, which we know has been a site of raids before, and is though not so far from. I'm imagining now it's kind of like up the coast to the north, a little ways, you know, in the forest, not quite on the coast, but you know, not far from it either. And so a raiding site sometimes, and so they've been spotted there, and that might be, and so it seems that's a good place to start. Start heading, perhaps to help the folks of Darrow, and also to find more signs of the tower. And so you make your way north, and you're journeying, and you're how far would you say Darrow is, Olwen? Is it like a day's journey? Is it 2 days journey? Like, are you going to need to camp out, or are you going to be able to get there if you push past sunset?
Let's say we can get there if we push past sunset.
Yeah. So the sun is setting. You can't quite see the walls of Darrow. But I think the neighborhood is starting to seem familiar to you, Olwen. You know, like there's a road, right? You're not traveling through the wilderness. And you recognize, oh, right, that's that old oak has been there for years, and I remember passing, you know, like that kind of, you know, you're sort of like, in your childhood wanderings, this was not outside the range of that, right? As you get, especially when you were a little bit older, a young teenager or younger teenager.
We see like you know, kind of notches in an oak, like, you know,
Yeah.
that might have been created by, you know, someone hitting them with a stick that she's pretending is a sword, right? And like Olwen, you know, like traces her hand over them a little bit in passing.
Yeah, and I think as you're tracing your hand over those notches, Olwen, you see sticking out of the oak an arrow, fletched in the Seathlander style.
I like put a
It
hand up to like indicate everyone stop.
it didn't like fight, like it didn't just hit right, like it's sitting in the oak. You don't know if but just as
but
a sign of
we don't
Seathlander.
know. We
Right.
don't
You
know.
don't know how long it's been there, right? Correct.
I like hiss at the others. Halt! Look at this.
This isn't like that time you saw a rare mushroom, is it?
No, this is a Seathlander arrow, Caradoc. Look with your eyes. It's right here.
Because I just assume that this is something you like. Halt! Look at this is something that we have heard multiple times from Alwyn on this.
This is serious. She's gonna like
Yes.
pull the arrow out and like wave it in Caradoc's face. Only Seathlanders fletch their arrows this way.
I nod. My apologies. That is worrying. But are there any other signs of their no other signs of their presence yet?
I mean, I'm gonna search for truth. I'm gonna search for some answers to that. If that makes sense. Like, having been alerted by this error, I'm gonna do a careful look around.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Tell me, how are you looking, and roll for truth. Roll search for truth. Roll plus ingenuity.
I'm really specifically looking for anything that's out of place, given my familiarity with this area. I am paying heed to my lesson that you cannot enter the same river twice. Just because you've been there before doesn't mean things will be the same.
Sure, love it.
So that's search for truth with advantage. Top, yeah, it's an 11, I think. It's an 11.
Yeah, it's an 11. Yeah, so you get 2 questions.
What danger or injustice needs to be addressed here, right? Like, I'm really interested in, is the danger like right nearby or further away, right? Like, since I have a sense of what the danger is.
So I think the thing that you notice, right, is that like there isn't the arrow has penetrated pretty deeply. Like, it's not just in the bark, right? It's in the tree.
Yeah.
But and it's like they're these big broad arrowheads, and so like so there's actually like a fair amount of like even exposed wood under the bark as it hit it, and there's some chipping or whatever. And the exposed wood is dry already, right?
Okay.
Like, so it hit it's been there a little while, at least it's not like fresh. So like the danger that needs to be addressed is just like, are they between you and the Abbey, right? Right. The danger is, can you get from here to there without being seen? Not like they're gonna jump you right in this moment. Right.
My second question is, what here can I use to travel unseen? That's my. Is that an Sorry, actually, let me check whether I have that in the question.
What here can be used to blank?
Yeah, there we go. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, to travel unseen. I mean, so traveling unseen, a group of knights with armor and packs, or squires with armor and packs and horses, is like a heavy ask. What I'll say is, like,
I mean, the answer could be you could only travel unseen if you split the party, right? Like, that's legitimate.
Well, I think you can only. So the answer. I think the answer is you can only travel unseen if you leave behind your horses and travel light.
Yeah.
Right. If you sort of like travel on foot, leaving your armor and heavy weaponry or with any, behind, right. But then you can like make your way through the woods, off the road. You probably know them well enough to be able to do that. If you're not like all mounted, right? You've got an extra mule at least, right? And with latchkey, is that
Linchpin.
with linchpin, right? It's just like a lot. Or split the party and have someone stay back with like you could leave them or you could leave someone with them, but you can't be unseen if you're traveling like mounted with those.
Yeah, I will start to like spin this plan out. I'm like, comrades, fellow questers, I believe there may be danger up ahead. The Seathlanders could well be between us and the monastery at Darrow, and we will not approach them undescried if we go galloping down this road with our arms and our steeds. But I know back ways. If we leave the horses and what is heaviest and noisiest in a safe hiding spot here, we could turn the tables and catch them unawares. What say you?
Well, they're either here or they can shoot us from Seathland, in which case I think we have larger problems.
She does crack a smile at that.
I think Galen has kind of like a wild light in his eyes. He's been up all night, like he probably hasn't really slept. And he says, gosh, well, you're not going to let us hear the end of it if we don't get to this tower.
I suppose we should not allow our doubt to guide our actions, to guide us to non-action. You're certain where the Seathlanders may lie in wait?
I didn't say that. I said there's every chance they're in between us and Darrow. And I think we can catch them without being seen if you follow my lead.
I suppose I get. Yeah, I do. I lock you with a look.
Yeah.
You are, and you're free from doubt that this is our best option.
She will nod solemnly.
Then we must act. And I have that shame highlighted. I'm just gonna, because I can use it and I will want to have people get advances. I'm gonna impart a lesson for free as if I'd spent 3 heart.
Whoa, okay.
Act without doubt and you will never know regret. Do you accept that?
Yeah, I think for Olwen that sounds in keeping with the like knight she aspires to be. So she will hear that and say, yes, you're right, Caradoc. We must press forward with no doubt at all.
What about you, Marion?
Well,
are you fool enough to join us on this errand?
I think we should.
Actually, you mark 3 notches because you mark as many as the heart that's spent.
Oh wait, is that the mechanic I wrote? That's crazy. That's overpowered. I'll take it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Marion is she I mean now with the arrow as evidence of Seathlanders here, walking this earth that is our kingdom, yes, we need to move forward. To delay would be, to delay would be only perhaps allowing the Seathlanders to kind of get their grips, even tighter on the land. But I do think we should, not do this in a foolhardy fashion, right? And I think Marion has kind of already started to kind of take off some of the armor and says, yeah, I think I don't think we should jingle around the land like we're wearing all these bells, right, that will draw attention to us.
So what are you doing with your stuff? I guess is just my question here. By which I mean, what opportunity are you giving me to mess with your stuff later if something happens?
Oh, I hear what you're saying. I think we'll like find a notable or a tree that's notable to Olwen, right? And like bury some stuff underneath it.
And the horses?
Yeah, we'll have to tie them up somewhere.
All right.
Well, there must be. Are there no foresters? This is I'm talking to Olwen now. Are there no foresters or others that are living out here?
There's the occasional cottage of of those who earn a living from the woods, but I don't know if we can afford to go so far out of our way.
Right, and just to sort of like moving around, even to get to a forester with all this stuff, risks getting seen, right? Like this is you're here now. You have the sign that the Seathlanders have been nearby, right? There's now this risk is sort of present. You kind of have to decide what you want to do about it. You could go a little ways, like there's some wiggle room, but I also don't want us to spend a million years making this plan, right? So
I mean, the plan, such as it is stow the stuff and then sneak through the woods and try to catch them off guard.
If you're telling me you're tying up your horses and you're going to go and try and catch them off guard, you can do that. And there is a risk that I'm not, but it's not. I'm not going to like gotcha with
Yeah, are we cool with like the like only security I can think of that's quick is just we bury the stuff instead of leaving it out in the open. Yeah. And the horses though.
Well, you could also leave someone could stay behind to guard them, right? Like that's a thing you could do.
Yeah, but who's going to stay behind to guard the horses? Come on, adventure awaits. Olwen definitely isn't.
All right, sounds like you're. Let's go. Let's get off the boat then, folks. All right.
Well, I actually have a possibility here. Could I? I have this recently imparted lesson. Right. That what did I write it down as?
Oh, nice.
A knight should realize that the world is inhabited by many who are not knights. And they're right. We're here in the world. They're foresters. Could I forge a path to a forester cottage where we could leave our stuff
and tap that for advantage?
Sure. Definitely. Just to be very clear about what the stakes are, right? It's getting ambushed by the Seathlanders.
That could happen.
Right. Just to make that clear. But yeah, you could definitely do that. I think that would be an awesome plan. Your perseverance is not very good.
Okay. No, it's not, but I could mark that lesson to give me advantage.
You get advantage, definitely. You want to give it a shot?
Sure. Yeah. So,
are you doing this by yourself while the others wait by the oak, or is everybody going?
And if it's all of our stuff that we're trying to stash, then it seems like
All
we
right,
would all
sure.
have to,
Yeah. Let's
Sure.
so we've the new plan is first stop Forester's hut, then sneaky catch the Seathlanders, with their guard down.
Okay. Yep. Go ahead and roll 2d6 with it. 3d6. Roll 3d6.
3d6. Yeah, and it's with my perseverance, which is not great, but I get the advantage here, so we'll see.
And that is a 6 and a 5, which makes it a 10. Yeah.
Nice.
So I think you're able to with luck and some of Olwen's local knowledge, and I think even right, Olwen, you know this person. Who is this Forester that you're directing?
Oh, this is great.
That
Let's
you're
say
directing everyone to.
let's say crusty but kindly old woodsman / hunter named Drainan. So I'll put him into NPCs here.
I just put a name in there, but you can do more if you want. If I spelled that poorly, you can fix it. Yeah. And he sees you and welcomes you with open arms, but also says, "What are you doing with the? There are Seathlanders about in these woods."
That's exactly why we're here, on a mission from the king. She swells up with importance as she tells this.
Oh, really, really grown up, Olwen. Gruffly though, really grown up, Olwen.
These are my comrades, fellow squires, nay, soon to be knights, and we would request your assistance in securing our steeds and our noisier equipment while we work to ambush our foes.
I can stash them here, but they've been raiding. They've been taking things. If they come, I'll do my best to hide them and I'll keep them safe. But if they, I can't answer violence with violence. I'm not equal to them. I hope you understand.
We wouldn't ask you to lose your life in this cause, but just give us a greater chance than leaving them in the open.
Of course. I'll hide them as best I can. They'll seem no more than my pack horses or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, done. We'll see. So I actually think this piece of it you don't have to roll for. I think, and this is sort of going to be the last little bit we do here. But like you're able to. I think all of you have sort of like basic woodcraft. This is part of your nightly training. You're not like rangers or anything, but neither are the Seathlanders expert in traversing the woods without leaving a trail, without leaving signs. And so after brief searching, and now it's like the sun is like just below the horizon. There's still a little bit of a glow, but it's getting dark. It's going to be hard to see very soon. But as that's happening, I think you're close to giving up. And heading back before you can't make your way in the dark, heading back to Drainan's place, you espy the low glow of a fire. And you see a group of 6 or 7 people camped around a fire. There's like a couple rabbits roasting. You probably smell the meat before you even see the glow of the fire. And they're being quiet, like you do not hear like jocularity or anything. It's as you get closer, you hear the sort of the low murmur of their conversation. On the one hand, they're not trying to hide their presence, but they're also not sort of like advertising it. You don't see horses. They're on foot. And I think Olwen, that you're like probably a very short ride, like a 45-minute ride from the walls of Darrow. A longer walk, but not far at all. And I'm curious, Galen, as you espy this group, of people who seem quite clearly to be Seathlanders. What would you like to do?
I think that as soon as Galen clocks what is going on, he has put his pack on the ground and is like rummaging around inside of it.
Sure.
And when he straightens up, he has what looks like a sort of bundle in his arms, like large enough to hold as though we're like a small, like a small child or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he's turning to Marion and he says, who just, I think happens to be the closest. And he says, I will show you a more foolish errand yet.
Say that again. You will show me
A more foolish errand yet.
Oh boy.
Oh boy, what do you pull out of that pack?
He says, cover your eyes and be ready to run. As long as I don't blink open.
Wait, what? What? Galen, what?
And he's like scurrying off into the woods with this sort of like bundle in his arms.
Away from the Seathlander camp.
I'm trying to sort of like get around.
Sure, you can do that. You can do that. I'm not going to make you.
Yeah, to kind of skirt the outside of it, and
So on the opposite, coming
to get around to the other side.
You're not on the same side as the rest of us.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
And I would basically like to make an incredible commotion over there.
Sure. What's in order to draw them out?
Yes, to just sort of disorient them, and then to give them a thing to focus on, so that my friends can pass in darkness.
Well, let me ask quite like, were you trying to pass in darkness? Like, what's the? I thought you were trying to ambush them.
Well, if you'll pardon my phrasing, if they're flashbanged, it'll be that much easier.
Yeah, to sort of got it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's cool. I think what you're doing, actually, you have the thing. I don't think there's like a role here, really.
It might be the jackdaw move, possibly.
It's everything that I've got at once. I think it's my infusing an object with an elemental blessing or bane. It's my maddening mockery, and it's my forearmed if I need it.
Yeah, okay. So I didn't see this as teasing or taunts. And I think you're trying to do more than just like get.
Can I describe what is going?
Yeah. Tell me what's happening. Yeah, tell us what's happening. Yeah.
So I think that cutting through the dimness under the eaves of the forest comes the sound of sort of feverish, hysterical laughter.
Okay.
And it, to the Seathlanders, it must sound as though someone is getting closer to them, who has just heard a joke that is so funny that they are going mad.
Yeah. And like as you're making that noise, just to narrate side by side, one of them looks around at the others and starts to get up to go investigate. But the others are staying close to for now.
There's a dark shape at the edge of the clearing.
Yeah.
And slowly it sort of starts to come out into the light. And what Galen has done is he has sort of built like a kind of straw man like effigy of himself that is rolling towards them very slowly on like cartwheels. And it has its arms out like a scarecrow, and it's just cackling, like head back.
I love this. Yeah,
cackling.
Definitely roll that jackdaw move. I think that's a taunt if I ever saw one. A taunt. Love it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
just as this is happening, right? The one is looking up at this thing, like it sees what it like. They see. I mean, it's dark, so at first it's a silhouette, but it's moving slowly. I think they start to sort of see what it is a little bit. But roll and we'll see how the
Sure.
how the result goes.
Okay, so
Roll
I'm
with
rolling.
cheer.
I'm rolling dark advantage with cheer. So this is my +2. It sounds like I'm playing a magic card when I say this is my +2 weaponized strand beast.
Yep.
All right, here I go. So it's the one on, just to be consistent, it's the one on the farthest right.
Yes,
That
correct.
is the, yeah.
That's a 2, so you don't have to worry about an extra tarnish.
Okay.
You roll in 8, and 8 plus cheer is 2, so that's a 10.
Nice.
That is a 10. Beautiful. So on a 10, so on a hit, you've got their attention firmly on you. They're there, they're staring at this thing. And I think like the key thing that happens here, right? Because you said you've also, right, it's gonna emit bright lights, right?
Yeah, yeah. The head has been made out of like a gourd or a pumpkin or something, and as we look, it begins to swell like a balloon until finally it bursts, and there is a sort of fireworks coming out of the head of this thing, confetti streamers, like just debris in all directions.
Yeah, and I think like first there was this one guy, but then once they see it's just like a scarecrow, I think like a bunch of them get up and start walking over. They're sort of loosening weapons, right? They're not sure, but they're all fully focused on it as it goes kaboom, and they are just like, it's like midnight. It's like noon at dusk, right? You all know to shut your eyes, right? And I think they let out howls, and they're blinded and flailing, and they're you can act. They're under your control for the moment. And I think this is going to be sort of the last thing that we do. So I like you narrate this scene. What do you do with them? What do you do with them? And this is for all of you. I'm actually gonna point this at Caradoc directly. Like Caradoc, what do you think should be done with these folks, and how are you gonna sort of handle the situation, or suggest the situation be handled?
I think that we should disarm them and I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to think of what the word is now, and disarm them and keep and contain them, but we do not yet know whether whether they mean harm or not, or simply travelers who have come to this land. We can question them for what they know.
So are you going to suggest taking them back to Draenen's place? Or are you going to then bring them to the Abbey in the morning? Like, what's sort of the...
Draenen hosted a party at his place, horse and prisoner of war party.
Are you going to take over their camp and stay there for the night and deal with them in the morning? Like, I think the next scene is in the morning. You've sort of got like control to decide what to do with them.
Yeah, I guess we should I feel like we'd be definitely wearing out our welcome at Draenen's camp if we show up with a bunch of, hey, can you hang on to these prisoners for us as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's a meal there. There's bedrolls. Not enough for all of you, but you can figure out how to handle that situation. Is that what we sort of want to leave it with them tied up and you eating their supper? Sharing your supper with them?
I think sharing their supper. I won't.
Is everyone else good with how this situation is unfolding? Does anyone have anything they want to add or?
Yeah, I think Marion, with this situation and us sharing our supper, I think she would be inclined to lock eyes with one of them and get a dramatic prophecy of the future, which is not exactly an interrogation, but I think giving me some insight into, the Seathlanders and what they're.
I would love to open next session with that move, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I think the only
but
detail
I'll make a note so that's the first thing that we, it's the next morning, you have a moment to do that.
Yeah.
I think the only detail I'll add is Olwen was, both afraid and also spoiling for a fight here, right? Because it's like Seathlanders, right? So I think she, she follows Caradoc's lead on we're going to disarm and capture them, but her approach is to like try to find the leader, the leader, and like hold her sword to their throat and like demand the rest throw down their arms. So like she at least attempts that at some point during the the chaos and the confrontation.
Sure. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. Okay. So let's quickly do our end of session move. So let's first of all check notches. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I think
the sound of agreement.
Okay, yeah. So let's check notches. Starting with left to right. Olwen.
Markinacci, you called out the best in someone. I'm kind of gonna say. I think I'm gonna say yes because at the end we created and made had a good dynamic with Draenen there. So
yeah, sure. Now select one of your lessons and make your choice.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I have more to learn from the lesson. You cannot enter the same river twice. Just because you've been there before doesn't mean things will be the same. I think having encountered the Seathlanders, she has a very strong sense that she's going to need to keep this lesson in mind. So I'm upgrading it to a permanent lesson. Oops.
Sounds good. All right, Caradoc. Did you help someone who seemed like an enemy?
Yes, maybe.
Yeah, I think you definitely
Okay.
made an active effort to make sure that your prisoners were comfortable. And I don't know, maybe you could help them more in a bit, but you did what you could in the moment, and I to me that makes sense.
Sure. And I think I have learned all I can from no one is immune to the glamour of evil.
Sure.
I'm going to delete that lesson.
Delete it and mark a notch. And then delete your marked temporary lessons and unmark your marked permanent lessons. Amazing. Cool. All right. Galen, did you create a pragmatic solution to a difficult problem?
I don't know about pragmatic.
Right. This is the wild thing about Galen as a character, which I love, right? Which is to say, like, you like elaborate solutions to problems, but they're pretty effective. It's your call. I'm not gonna I think it's up to you if you want to take that or not. I'm not gonna. I think it's fine if you want to.
No, I'll take it. It's pragmatic because it worked.
Yeah, there you go. That's fair. That's fair. Cool. And yeah, take a look at the choices in the end of session move. And select one of your lessons and make the choice.
I think that I embody the lesson of a thing is not what it seems more and more.
So yeah, take that heart. Just because you spent a bunch of it. Very cool. Yeah, and unmark your permanent lessons, erase your marked temporary lessons. And Marion, did you share a difficult truth boldly?
I don't think I shared one. Well, I mean, I was thinking about difficult truths, but
you've been acknowledging a lot of them to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get there. All right. Pick a lesson from and make the choice here. What do you want to do?
Yeah, I think I'll take that. A knight should realize that the world is inhabited by many who are not knights, and make that a permanent.
Beautiful.
Lesson.
And then delete your
Delete the other one, yeah.
your marked temporary lesson. Fantastic. Okay. So some of you have advanced, I know, so I just want to quickly talk about advancement. So on the advancement tab, there are a list of advancements. So that includes there are a variety of categories of moves available to different playbooks. You can take an advanced move available to one of your playbooks. You can take an advanced move not available to either of your playbooks. You can find a noble steed, which will give you a basic move that grants you an extra and you get a bonus for. You can find a magical talisman. If you want to do a magical talisman, I suspect that this is not something that's going to make sense given what we're doing now and the current state of development of the game, but that's there. And there are the aspiration triggers, however, are available. They should be in the shared folder if you want to take a look at it. And so you can replace one of your heart trigger. Replace your heart trigger with an aspiration heart trigger, and take a +1 to a stat. And then there's some stuff about vows too, which I don't really know what vows are because I don't think they're described anywhere yet. Is vows the thing we can do yet, Alexi?
Sorry. Yes, they exist. I think they're in the folder I sent you. So, but if they're not, I will add them. I will add them in the intervening time so that people can think about them if they're taking that advance.
I'm not sure they are, but I'll take a look. I'll follow up on that if people want to take a vow. But there's also lots of other choices. So yeah, folks who advance, take your advances. And with that, we can maybe lead with anyone who took an advance could describe their advance at the beginning of the next session. So with that, I will end the recording. Thank you to anybody who watched. I hope you enjoy.